Hey everybody, welcome to the Shot Clock on TYT Sports. It's Dave Rubin, Ben Mankiewicz, our discussion of the NBA. We are about, Dave, 22% into the season.
Did you use a calculator to come up with that?
No, I basically, 16 games is about a fifth, 20 games about 25%. Teams have played 17 or 18. I'm saying.
That's pretty good.
21, 22, 20, depending on how many games your team has played. So it's not too early. In fact, it's almost late to do this if the playoffs started today. PredictionMachine.com, their bracket simulator. And they'll take you through the rest of the season and give then percentages of how likely these teams are to win in each round. Let's take a look at that right here. So first in the East, right now Toronto is the top seed, and they basically stay the top seed in the East. And what's surprising about this is if you look at the simulator, Toronto's got a 57% chance to make the Eastern Conference Finals and a 27% chance to reach the finals.
Right.
So Toronto is a prohibitive favorite there. Beating Washington, which I would love in the Eastern Conference Finals, because that would put Washington within a,
getting
Kyle
close.
Lowry injury of playing for the NBA championship, and who knows what happens there. But as you see, Toronto 57% likelihood of making the Eastern Conference semis. The Wizards only 11%. So, and they have Toronto advancing and playing Dallas. And so the West is the surprise, although we know there's so many good teams out there. But they have a Dallas-Memphis Western Conference final, with Dallas slightly more likely to advance and face Toronto in the finals and win.
Yeah, now I understand they have computers and math behind this, but I cannot get on board that.
Well, the great thing is that Dallas and Toronto is bad enough, but imagine if you're ESPN, ABC, and it's Memphis and Toronto.
Nobody's happy with that.
Nobody. I mean, it's the NBA Finals and it's event programming, and people will watch.
Of course.
And there'll be storylines that develop. But Memphis and Toronto. The idea of getting the casual fan to tune in, that probably wouldn't happen. But it's interesting to follow all along. And as you see, looking back over to the East, Cleveland, a tough first round series with Chicago, and then they're bounced out. So right now, almost no matter how you look at it, Cleveland has, the Cavaliers have their work cut out for them. But we all anticipate that the team we see in Game 70 is not the team we're seeing here in Game 20.
Yeah, and you lose a look. I get that they're working through all these numbers on this kind of stuff. But yeah, you do lose a little of that. We're still at that, we barely started, 22% according to Ben's internal numbers. So, yeah, there's so many other factors. And again, NBA, this is so player-driven. One guy dragging a team when two guys go down, that this stuff can't really account for all that. And that's the key thing in the NBA.
And I think the Cavaliers will make a move and get somebody to defend twos and threes on the perimeter, which is obviously what they badly need. We ran this a couple of ways. One through, hey Jason, what video game are we using?
NBA 2K15.
Our producer, Jason Rubin. NBA 2K15. Now, the NBA 2K15 won't let you plug in the teams as they are now. They essentially play out the season.
Right.
And then seed the teams accordingly. But so what we'll do for them is let's jump right to the finals. Because NBA 2K15 has a finals that I think everybody would love to see.
Yeah.
The Spurs, who come in as the third seed in the West over the third-seeded Cavaliers in a familiar to LeBron James 4-1 final.
By the way, one quick thing on Kevin Love, because you mentioned before that he's sort of disgruntled, or it's a little unclear, I guess, how truthful all that is or whatever.
We don't know.
Or his defense, now it's being exposed because more people are watching or whatever. I just don't get how a guy like him, who was so well respected on a crappy team, could then get the chance to play with LeBron and not make it the perfect situation one way or another.
I think it'll be, and I think he'll sign with Cleveland. And I think at some point people need to acknowledge that getting 15 defensive rebounds a game counts as defense. That has something to do with defense.
Yeah.
I just like to see those brackets because just the notion that basketball might be relevant again in Washington is great, because it was really, when I was growing up, the Bullets were going to a Bullets game was a big deal.
Yeah. So though, to the original point, which was 4-1 Spurs over Cleveland. My thing with Cleveland is, although they've been totally messed up so far, that the East is in such flux and it's so uneven, and you don't know what you're getting at it, even the good side of it, the Chicago side versus the bottom side, which is pretty terrible, that I tend to think this is going to be the type of year that LeBron will be able to just drag them sort of which he did for a Cleveland team the first time they lost to the Spurs. They were pretty good, but he's able to I think he'll get to the point where he'll be able to just drag them through the playoffs. And then, my suspicion is that the Spurs' oiled machine will be better. But
the only thing, and the reason why I mentioned the Bulls first is that I think that is largely true. Byron Scott, when the Lakers coach disses the East, he's like, there's 3 or 4 teams that are okay, and the rest of them are mediocre. I'm like, fuck off, man.
Yeah, have you looked in the mirror again?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, but it's not untrue, of course. And I don't think the Bulls are in that group. I think the Bulls would challenge in the West. I think they're not the best team in the West. They'd be players. My last stat that I'll throw out on the Bulls, they're 9-3 on the road, and they haven't been healthy. I think that the Bulls are a dangerous team when together, and Pau Gasol looks rejuvenated.
Yeah, I'm not as high on them, but I will say this, that getting rid of Boozer or just letting him go, they just let him go, right?
They let him go. They amnestied him. And Deng, too, that they look better. They look quicker. They look younger.
Yeah.
And they still have Kirkheim.
Yeah, and now that we're in LA and I'm watching a lot of Lakers games, believe it or not, mostly Clipper games, but Boozer is just a disaster. The guy's never played defense in his life, and he's such a ball suck that even when he scores 20, I would bet his over-under is probably negative.
I can't believe you just called someone a ball suck on the Lakers who wasn't Kobe Bryant. That's amazing.
I'm still high on Kobe. We'll get to that.
All right, so but basically we're of the same mind, at least on the Spurs. Although once it gets to the already intriguing, so many intriguing matchups potentially in the playoffs out west. And are there teams, to wrap this up, that could beat the Spurs? No question, there are teams that could beat the Spurs. Too many. Rockets look good when healthy. The Golden State is too much fun to watch. And the Clippers.
I've just gotten to the point with the Spurs where I second-guess them every time, and I thought they were going to lose last year, and then they just rampage through the finals. Obviously, that at this point, to second-guess them would be almost ludicrous.
So we'll be doing this every Friday, taking a look at PredictionMachine.com, their bracket simulator, and NBA 2K15 to see how both of those look at the playoffs if essentially they were to start today.
But you know what, Ben? There's only one electronic button that these people have to press, and that's the subscribe button that's right down below.